We begin today the last blot of Masechta Beya. We're going to finish the Masechta Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, or the way the Rishonim refer to the Masechta Yontif. So we begin by the second to last Mishnah on Daf Lametes Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. This Mishnah continues halachas b'negeh to Tchumen. Here specifically it speaks about Eruv Tchumen on Yontif. Zok the Eilige Mishnah. Mi shahayu peirosav be'ir acheres. A person that had peiros that he owns, but they're by someone else in a different city. Ve'irvu b'nei oisa'ir. People of that city where the peiros are made an eruv tchumen. In other words, that city where the peiros are is out of the tchum of the city that he's in. So now people of that city made an eruv lahavi etzloi mepeirosav, to bring to him his peiros. Or the Bach is actually going to say a bit different. They didn't make the Eidov necessarily to bring to him his peiros, but they made an Eidov. The Bach says, "Ve'irvu b'nei oisa ha'ir lo yatzloi." They want to come to him. So in the Bach's Girsa, he continues and says, the halacha is lo yaviu lo mi peirosav. They're not allowed to come and bring him his peiros. What's the reason? Because of what we learned before in this Perek, that the tchum of a person's peiros goes according to him. He didn't make an Eidov tchumen, so he's not allowed to have those peiros brought to him. They made an Eruv Tchumen, so how could they bring it to him? If the owner of the peiros made an Eruv Tchumen, then peiros of Kamayu. Then the peiros have the tchum like him, and he made the Eruv Tchumen, so they could bring him his peiros. Sagt the Mishnah weiter, another thing regarding the Eruv Tchumen, mi shezimin etzloi orchim. A person invited to him guests, and Rashi says we're speaking about guests also that are coming from another city, and they're coming from another city that's out of the tchum. So lo yelichu biyadam manos. They cannot take portions of food from the sudeh back with them to their city, to out of the tchum of this city, and they're going to take it. If they made an eruv, or they want to go and bring it to their city, they're not allowed. Why not? Again, the halacha is that this manos, these portions of food from this owner, he didn't make an eruv tchumen to go to that city. So the food has the tchum of the owner of the food, has to stay in this city. They can't take the portions of food together with them to their city. Unless Elon Kain zicho lahem manisayim erev yomtiv. Unless he was mezakeh to them this food from before Yom so then it's already theirs from before Yom So as Rashi says, just like you do, for example, by an Eruv Chatzeres or by Eruv Tavshilin, you have someone else pick up the food for them, for those guests that are going to be coming to you, and he's mezakeh for them. So it's already theirs from before Yom Tov. So then they can take home that portions of food with them on Yom Tov. And even though you didn't ask them, but Rashi says, the Zachal Adam Shaloi B'Fanov. Zok the Gemara Itmer, we learned the following machlokes. Hamavkid peiros etzel chaverei. A person that gave his peiros as a pekadon to his friend. So now the question is, when it comes to the status of Eruv Tchumen, whose tchum does it follow? Does it follow the tchum of the owner or the tchum of the shomer? Rav Amar Rav says, Keragle mishev kiduloi. The tchum of the fruits is the person, the shomer, that has the fruits in his possession, since he's the one that's safeguarding it in his possession. So it also has the tchum of him. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says no, keragle amafkid. The person that took it, he took it to safeguard it. Okay, that's all. But he's not the owner of the food. So therefore the tchum still goes according to the owner. So the Gemara now explains, or tries to explain, the source of the machlokes. So the Gemara, Lema, shall we say that Rav Shmuel does l'tamay. The machlokes of Rav and Shmuel here follows their opinion regarding another halacha of a case of a pekadon. And this is a Mishnah in Baba Kama that discusses actually the halachas of Nizik and Mazik and Baba Kama. Let's see. The Tanan, so over there it says a Mishnah as follows. Im hichnis birishus. If you brought an object into someone's chotzer with his permission, let's say Rashi says, let's say you brought your ox into his rishos, you brought your pots or pans or your fruits into your friend's chotzer, and he gave you permission to bring you things in. So then, what's the halacha? Now, what happened? Your objects in his rishos got damaged. Who has to take responsibility for that? So, the Tanakama says, Bala Chotzer Chayev. The Bala Chotzer that gave you permission to bring you things there, he's going to be Chayev. In other words, when he gave you permission to bring things there, it's not only that he gave you permission to keep them there, they should be safe and kept there, but he also is taking responsibility for the hezek that's going to happen. Rebbe says, that no, just because he told you come, you could bring it in. As Rashi says, he told them all, bring it in. I told you can bring it in there, but I wasn't taking responsibility for any damage. He's not going to be chayiv unless he clearly told you, you could bring it in and I'll guard it, I'll protect it. Then you're going to be chayiv. That's what Rebbe says. Until he clearly accepts that he's going to protect them. That's the machlokes of the Tanakama and Rebbe over there. Now, for Omar Rav Huna said in the name of Rav that halacha kedivrei chachamim. Rav holds that we paskin like the chachamim, that if he allows you to bring it in, automatically that means that he's taking responsibility for the hezek that is going to happen to it. Shmuel says halacha keRebbe. We paskin like Rebbe that he does not take responsibility for that. He allowed him to bring it in, but he doesn't take responsibility for any damages. So now the Gemara wants to compare the same thing regarding the shiur by tchumen. Should we say Rav the Amar keRabbanon? Rav, he paskins like the Rabbanon, so over here as well, what Rav is saying, just like the Rabbanon said there. When a person says, bring it into my possession, bring it into my chotzer, automatically that includes also that he's taking responsibility for the damages. The same thing over here, when a shomer takes an object into his possession, it also includes that it becomes his legabe tchumen. Not only legabe the shmireh, but also we extend that legabe the tchumen, that it establishes it that it's his according to the Issa of tchumen. And Shmuel, Dama keRebbe, and Shmuel that says like Rebbe, that no, it's limited. He just said, come in. That's all. He said, bring it in. He didn't say that I'm taking responsibility for the damages, but you can keep it here, not more. The same thing we say by the tchumen. I'm taking the pikodin to keep in my possession, but as far as the tchumen is concerned, that you're still the owner. So the tchum still goes according to the owner. So we could connect the machlokes there regarding the damages, over here also regarding the isur of tchumen, whether it follows the status of the owner or the shomer. Amalach Rav, so the Gemara says, no, not necessarily is it connected. Rav will tell you, Anod Omri afilu l'Rebbe. My shittah that I said over here, that the tchum follows the shomer, it could go even according to Rebbe. At kan lekam Rebbe Hossam, over there, when Rebbe said that unless he said beferish that he's taking responsibility for the damages, so the damages is not, he's not going to have any responsibility for that. You know why that is over there? Ella the tirusa. That's because over there he just told him, bring in your items here. He didn't say anything more. So therefore, bestam we say that he didn't take responsibility for any of the damages. But what are we speaking about over here? We're not speaking about a person that said, bring it in. Here we're speaking about a real shomer. Over here we're talking about a shomer that did clearly accept responsibility to guard it and to protect it. So over here he would be chai for the damages. So over here, such a kind of a shomer. So Rav says, he's also going to, the Issa of Tchumen is also going to go according to him. So it's different. Over there, he stam said, bring it in. Over here, when he's a real shomer, over here, Rav says, even Rabbi would agree that the Tchum should go according to the shomer. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Anod Omri afilu l'Rabbanan. My opinion, that I say over here regarding the Issa of Tchumen, that it goes like the owner, that could go even according to the Rabbanan. At kan lekam the Rabbanan Hossam. Over there, when the Rabbanan say that the shomer has to take responsibility for the damages, what's the reason? Over there, Elo the nichalele inish the nekim ture b'reshus the bal chotzer. A person, in other words, the owner of this ox, for example, if you were bringing an ox into this person's courtyard, so the owner of the ox, when he hears the owner of the courtyard telling him, bring in your ox over here, he's more than happy to be allowed to bring it in, and he would also be more than happy if the Bala Chotzer is going to take responsibility that it shouldn't get damaged. The imaziklei loy mechayev. The imaziklei loy mechayev. And if he's going to be mazik, if this shiur is going to be mazik anybody, he's not going to be chayev. It's not going to be his responsibility, because you told me that I'm allowed to bring it in over here. Aval hacha, but over here, when it comes to the shaila of iser tchumen, mi nichelele inish, the leikim peirei b'reshusei the chavrei. When you give your friend a pekadon, do you want now that the iser tchumen should go according to him, that he should get ownership on it also for the iser tchumen? You don't want that. You gave it to him as a pekadon to safeguard. What's going to happen if in the middle of Yom Tif you want to take it back and you want to take it somewhere and you want it to be according to your tchum? You don't want it to be stuck into his tchum and you shouldn't be able to take it. So you don't want it that it should go according to his tchum. So how can you compare to the case over there? Over there, you want the person to take the responsibility. And if anything goes wrong, so then you shouldn't be responsible for it. But over here, you don't want the tchum should go according to him. So therefore over here, Shmuel says, the owner, when he gives it as a pekadon, he's never giving it away so much that the tchum should also not be his. Okay, so we have the machlokes. It's not connected. The Gemara explains it's not connected to the Mishnah. But we have this machlokes here of Rav and Shmuel. So the Gemara now brings from our Mishnah that we just learned. Tanan, what did it say in the Mishnah? V'im erev hu, if the owner of Peiris that has his Peiris in a different city that's out of the Tchum, if he made an eid of Tchumen, so then Peiris of Kamayu, your fruits that are in the other city by someone else are like your Tchum, and because you made an eid of, they can bring it for you. Someone can bring it for you. But how could they bring it for you? If you're going to say like what Rav said, that as long as your fruits are by someone else, so then it goes according to the tchum of that person that it's by him. If so, so if the owner of the fruits made an eidov, how is that going to help you? But the fruits are not in your possession. The fruits are by someone else in a different city. So the tchum should be according to that person in that city. Rav Huna, so Rav Huna answers, So Rav Huna answers, Omri Bei Rav, by the yeshiva of Rav, they answered for Rav, Kagan sheyichad loy keren zavis. That these fruits in the Mishnah, that's in another city by someone else, it's not stam. There's a specific corner where they designated for those fruits, that over there it should be for the owner, kept in that corner specifically for the owner. So in such a case, when it's in a specific corner, it's as if it's still in the owner's possession. And therefore the tchum goes according to the owner. In a regular case by a pekadon, where he just leaves it amongst, the shimer leaves it amongst all of his other items, so then the tchum goes according to the shimer. But over here, they made a special corner for it. Now the Gemara goes to the next case of the Mishnah. Toshama, in the next case of the Mishnah, it said, you invited guests, you should not give them portions of food to take home out of the tchum, of your tchum, of the owner's tchum. Unless you mezakeh this food for them from before Yom Tov. Then they could take it. How does it help to be mezakeh the food for them according to Rav? But if you're going to say by the tchum, you follow the person that has the pekad, that has the fruits now in his, or the food now in his possession. If you mezakeh this food to them through someone else before they arrive, before Yom Tov, you mezakeh to them through someone else, how does that help you? It's in someone else's possession. The owner, those guests, don't have that food in their possession. So therefore it should be like a pekadon, that it should go according to the shaymer. In this case, someone else has it. And for the Gemara, hochanami, here as well, kivin shezikele mal yidei acher. Since you designated a certain person, you said, here, take this food and be zoiche in it for the guests. Kimi sheyichad loy keren zavis dami. So it's just like you took it and you put it in a specific corner for these guests, and therefore it's kept there for them. The same thing over here. If you mezakeh the food through someone specific to hold it for them, so therefore it's not going to go according to the shaymer, the one that's holding it for them. It's being held for these people, for these guests, and they can take it to wherever they want to go. It's based on Zachan L'Adam, yeah, but it's more than Stam Zachan L'Adam. It's like you mamish gave it to them specifically to hold in a specific place for them, so therefore the tchum goes according to the guests when they want to take it. Or the Gemara says, you don't even have to say this vara. Zika Shani. When you're mezakeh for someone, that's different. The whole point, when you're being mezakeh for the guests, so over here you can't say, oh, someone else is holding on to it for you. The whole reason you're doing it is to give it for their tchum. Usually I say, when I have a pekadon by someone, I don't want necessarily that the pekadon is someone else's possession. It should become his tchum. I want to give it to him as a pekadon to safeguard from me, but not that the tchum should become his. But over here, the whole reason why you're being mezak al yedei acher is for the whole purpose of the tchum, that the tchum should become the tchum of the orchim, so they can take it home. So if you're doing it for that purpose, so then it works. They can take it home when they want on Yontif when they come. Gemara brings a story as Rav Chana bar Chaniloi. Rav Chana bar Chaniloi, so he was coming from another city, and he was a guest in someone's house. Rashi explains, he came and he was a guest by someone. So he came before Yontif, and Tolo Bisra Be'ivra Dedasha. He went, he bought meat by the butcher, and he hung the meat on the doorpost, by the door. He found like a place by the door, by the hinges of the door, basically, and he hung the meat over there that he bought. And now he wanted to know if on Yontif would he be allowed to take this meat back to his city, which was out of the tchum of this city. So he came to Rav Huna, and he asked Rav Huna the question. He made an eidov to go to the other city, but is he allowed to take it from this city out of the tchum? The people of this city can't go to another city. He himself made an eidov. Okay, let's see. So he came and he asked Rav Huna the question, could he take it to the other city? Amalei, so Rav Huna answers him, at talis, if you're the one that hung this meat that you bought on the door, by the door, then zil shkil, go and you can take it. You made an eidov, it's yours, you can go and take it to your city. But vi'i inu tolulach, if when you bought this from the butcher, you didn't hang it there, they came, delivered it, they hung it there for you, then loy tishka, then you won't be allowed to take it to your city. So the Gemara now is going to explain both parts of the psak din of Rav Huna. Frag the Gemara, v'i'iu tala, if he himself is the one that hung it there on the doorpost in the guest house that he was staying, mi shakel, is he allowed to go and take it to his city? V'ha Rav Huna Talmud Rav Hava, Rav Huna that paskin this halacha, he's a Talmud of Rav. And v'amar Rav, and Rav said, keragle mi shefkida etzla, even if you own something, but if you gave it to someone else as a pekadain, then the tchum goes according to the shaymer that's holding this pekadain. So over here as well, if he's staying in a guest house and he hung it up on the door in the house, so it's not in his possession. It's in the house. It's hanging in this house. That's not his house. So he shouldn't be allowed to take it out of the tchum of the people of this city or the people of this house. So the Gemara answers, no, it's not the same thing. Shani ibra dedasha, over here in this case, when he hangs it on the door, this is different. The kimi sheyichid loy kerezavas dami. Over here it's going to be similar to what we said before, that if you have a place that's designated for yourself, so then you're allowed to take it where you want to go, even if you gave it as a pekadon to someone else. So Rashi explains that over here, when you hung it on the door, you never made it you never gave it to anybody as a pekadon. You hung it there for yourself. You're staying in this house and you hung it there yourself. Rav only said when you actually gave it to somebody as a pekadon, and he took responsibility for it and he's safeguarding it, so then Rav holds it becomes his even for the tchum. But over here, enochanami, it's not your house, but you never gave it as a pekadon, you just hung it there. So therefore, you can take it to wherever you want to go. That's why Rav Huna paskin this way. Okay, that's the first half of the psak din. But then came the second half of the psak din. What was the second half of the psak din? That if the butcher brought it and hung it over there on the door for you, so then you're not allowed to take it. So the Gemara here brings three different Amirayim that asked Akasha on this psak din of Rav Huna. Amalei Rav Hillel Rav Ashi. So Rav Hillel said to Rav Ashi, V'i inu talulei. What did Rav Huna say? That if the butcher hung it up, loy shakel, he can't go and take it to his city. Why not? Shmuel said, Shur shel patam. When you have a shur that you buy from a person that fattens oxen, and he's selling, in other words, he's a salesman. He sells oxes, and he fattened them. And even if you bought it from this patam on Yontif, hareyu keragle kalodam. Anyone that buys it from him on Yontif can take it wherever he wants to go. Why? Because from before Yontif, you know already that you're going to buy it from him. That's what it's designated for. So what's his question? Over here, you should say the same thing. Even if the butcher is the one that delivered it to you over here, but the butcher is selling this meat. That's what it's designated for, to sell it to you. So why shouldn't he be able to take it to wherever he wants to go? That's one shaila. Huh?
He delivered it before Yom Tov.
Yeah, so even it's noch better, even before Yom Tov. So for sure you should be able to take it. Yeah. Another shaila, Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Ravina asked a shaila to Ravashi. If the butcher is the one that hung it over there for him, loy shakel. So then he said he's not allowed to take it, but why not? We pass like Rab Daisa. We learned before Rab Daisa said when you have behemoths that you give to a shepherd, and there's one shepherd in the city, everybody gives it to this shepherd. So then even if you give it to the shepherd on Yontif, so then it goes according to the tchum of the shepherd, because you know you're going to give it to him. There is no other shepherd here. So over here as well, this butcher, he already from before Yontif, he hung it up for him over there, so you know he's going to get it to use for Yontif. So for sure he should be able to take it wherever he wants to go. A third shaila, the Gemara says, Amalei Ravinem. Amalei Ravashi, that is, Amalei Ravashi, Rav Kahana. Ravashi asked Rav Kahana about this psak of Rav Huna. Vi inu talule. If the butcher hung it up, loy shakel. So then Rav Huna said that he's not allowed to take it to his city. But why not? And here he asks, much simpler. V'atnan, but it says in the Mishnah, in the beginning of the Perek, ha-beheme va-kelim kiragle ha-bailim. That when it comes to the tchum of a beheme or kelim, you go according to the owner. So already before Yontif, the butcher hung it up for him, and he was kind it already from before Yontif, so he's the bailim. What's the difference that they hung it up for him? Just because they hung it up for him, he shouldn't be able to take it. From before Yontif, he's already the bailim, so he should be able to take it to wherever he wants to go. So it's very hard to understand this psak of Rav Huna. So the Gemara, according to Rashi's pshat, changes the whole pshat here and says basically that this psak of Rav Huna has nothing to do with tchum. It has to do with the halacha of basar shenis alim and ayin. There's a halacha when you have meat that was out of your sight and you can't necessarily tell that the meat that was there is the same meat that was placed there, kosher meat, so you're not allowed to eat it. So therefore what he was saying was as follows. Let's see. Elo shani Rav Chana bar Chaniloi. Rav Chana bar Chaniloi is different. The Gavre Rabbahu, he's a very great person. V'tored b'shmaite, and he's always very busy learning. He gets very into the learning, and therefore he forgets what's going on around him. He didn't see what's happening. And therefore, v'hachi ka'amar lei. This is really what Rav Huna was saying to him. If you took off time from your learning and you went and you picked it up from the butcher and you hung up the meat over there, so then islach simana begavei. So you saw the meat and you recognize it, you know what it is, you have a simon, you have a tviyas ayin to know that this is yours. And therefore, even if you didn't see exactly everything, so therefore your das doesn't go completely off of it, which means that you're going to be able to remember and see and recognize that this is your meat. But so therefore zil shkol, you can take it and go and use it and you take it wherever you want. But if the butcher is the one that hung it up for you, so then masches daitach, your mind is off of this. You're not going to recognize if this is the same meat that they hung up for you. Is it kosher meat? This is basashanis alam and ayin and v'loy tishkel. So therefore, you're not allowed to go and take it. And therefore, it has nothing to do with the halacha of tchumen, of the Issa tchumen, but it's a completely different thing of basashanis alam and ayin. Zok Heilige Mishnah. So here in this Mishnah, according to Rashi's Pshat, the Mishnah speaks about the halacha that's related to muktzeh. It's not connected to the halachas that we spoke before about the union of Isut Chumen. Ein mashkin v'sheichten es hamidbariyos. You're not allowed to give to drink the animals and then to shech them if these animals are midbariyos. What does midbariyos mean? The Mishnah is going to say in a second. Midbariyos, they're out in the wilderness. Avol mashkin v'sheichten es habaisais. But you're allowed to give to drink and to shech the animals that are domesticated. They come in, they live, they come into the house, they come into the city near the house by the person, and therefore the point over here is that if it's away from the person, so then it's not something that was designated for this to be shechted on Yontiv, so it's muktzeh. Similar to what we had earlier in the first Perek, when you have these birds that you didn't designate, so you're not allowed to shech them on Yontiv. So over here as well, if they're far out in the wild, so then it's not designated for this, you're not allowed to shech them. But if it's baisais, so then it's designated for this. It's near you, so you're allowed to shech them. Mishnah says, Eilehem baisais. What's considered to be baisais? They're domesticated, they're closer to where you live. Halonois be'ir. That by night they come to sleep in the city. Midbariyais. What is midbariyais? Halanois ba'afar. They live, they sleep and they live out over there in the afar, in the places where the animals are grazing out away from the city, and they don't come in to sleep in the city. So those are called midbariyos. They're out in the wild. So the Gemara starts off with a diak in the beginning of the Mishnah. Lamali lemeimar mashkin v'sheichten. Why is it saying in the Mishnah that you can give to drink the animals and then you shecht? Drinking is not negaya. You can always give an animal to drink on Yontif. So that's that. It should have just said ein sheichten. The question is it muktzah? Are you allowed to go and shecht them or not? And for the Gemara, milse agav orche kamashmalam. When the Mishnah says mashkin and sheichten, it's teaching me a halacha, not a halacha actually. It's teaching me the behavior, what you're supposed to do when you shecht an animal in order to make things easier. That the lishki inish behemtai. First, a person should give the animal to drink water, and v'hada lishchait, and then you should shecht the animal. Why? Mishum sirche de meshche. Because of sirche de meshche. There are two pshatim in this. Rashi says that this refers to the hide of the animal. If you want to take off the hide of the animal, it shouldn't be attached to the meat. So if you give it to drink before, it makes it easier to take off. That's Rashi's pshat. The Rambam says that it refers to the sirches that there could be in the animal that make it treif. So when you give it to drink before the shechita, it's going to be smoother and it's more of a chance that it should be a kosher behema.
So it was the same thing.
Huh?
So it was the same.
It could be they're both true. Hava is a beidamis, but in the Taich of the Gemara, there's two pshatim over here. So this is something that's brought. I mean, the Rebbe spoke about this inyan when the Rebbe made a hadron on Masechta Beya. So the Rebbe spoke about this inyan of machshken v'sheichten when it comes to the shechita. And you want to disconnect the basar and the oir. It's two different avedas. There's oir which is makif, basar is pnimi, and you have to separate from the two. So you have to have the mashkin. You have to give to drink water, which is teire. Teire separates and shows you what has to go b'pnimius and what stays b'makif. And sometimes certain things also basar could mean the basarius from the gashmius, and the oir goes on the makif of the mitzvah. Sometimes a person does a mitzvah and the mitzvah is connected to Gashmias, and from the mitzvah you could come into the hana of the Gashmias, and you have to separate the Gashmias from the mitzvah. So when you have Teire, you mashke the behema before, so then you could separate the mitzvah from the Gashmias. Yeah. Mashkin v'sheichten, I didn't see right now the source, but if I remember correctly, it says, Mashkin is a behema l'fnei hashchita, that comes l'fnei hashchita. You want to be maila a person named v'shachat elo mashach is mashkin as a behema. But I've given the nefesh bahamas amal a bissel mashke that soll keiner reisgehen von sich. Okay, I think the Rebbe brought this also once in a Fabrengen, this pshat. Yeah, I was.
Understand? I can't shout. It's chayes that just come from the city. You're allowed to shout. It's not easy. Like in his field, it's mashach tzalbebs.
No, but it's something that you're saying it. Who owns it?
Yeah, I mean, what's
maybe it's hefker, maybe it is hefker, but because it's by size, so therefore it's something that the person sees and is more closer to him. Sure. So he has in mind. He knows if he has to shecht on yontif. Okay, but that's not muktzah if he knows if it's something that comes often enough back to him. So therefore that's something that's designated for this. That's something that's within the proximity that a person is thinking that if I need, I shecht from this. Something that's far out, the person doesn't think about shechting that problem. Here, the Gemara brings a braise where there's actually a machloikis about what's midbariyos and what's baises. Sagt the braise Taner Rabbanan, Eilein midbariyos ve'eilein baises. These are what's called midbariyos, and this is what's called baises. Midbariyos, kol sheyotzes bePesach. Midbariyos, they're from the wild. If they go out in the beginning of by the springtime, in Pesach time, v'royes ba'afar, they go out and they stay over there outside. And v'nechnasais, they only come back in b'revi rishayna, by the first rain. When's the first rain? Cheshvan time, Rashi says. But the entire summer, they stay out. Ve'eleim baisais, what's called baisais? Kol sheyotzes v'royes chutz l'tchum. They go out and they pasture outside of the tchum. But they come and they come at night to sleep inside the tchum. That's the Tanakama. Rabbi says, Eilu ve'eilu baisasein. Oh, this is all called baisas. Because even the one that comes back for the winter, that's because he's coming back for the winter, that's still called baisas. And so the Eilu midbariyos. What's called midbariyos? Kol sheyotzes v'royes ba'afar ve'ein nechnasas liyishuv. those that go out in the outside to graze over there, and they do not come back into the yishuv at all. They never come back. Not only they don't come back by night, they don't come back in the winter either. They're out in the wild completely. They're out in the forest. Okay, that's the machlokes here. So the second opinion was Rebbe. So flag the Gemara, this is all based on the concept of muktzeh. But umi islay Rebbe muktzeh. Does Rebbe hold of muktzeh? But v'habaye minei Rab Shimon ba Rebbe me Rebbe. Patzilei tamara. These patzilei tamara, which Rashi explains, are these kind of dates that never become on the tree. They don't become ripe, and they cut them off the tree and they put them away in a place that they should ripen. It takes a while until they ripen off the tree. So the question is, before it ripens, Rab Shimon mahu. According to Rab Shimon, it didn't yet ripen. Is this going to be considered muktzah or not? Amalei, so Rebbe answered, Ein muktzah Rab Shimon. It's not a problem because according to Rab Shimon, there's no muktzah. Elo, when is there muktzah according to Rab Shimon? Groigeris tzmukim bilvad. When you take figs or grapes and you make out of it dried figs or you make out of it raisins, then Rab Shimon will agree there's muktzeh. So as Rashi explains, we had it before in the Masechta, in that case where the person is mamish biyadayim, taking something and setting it aside, that I want this to be dried and I'm not going to eat it until it's dried, only something that you mamish maktzeh biyadayim, that's going to be muktzeh. Otherwise, there's no muktzeh according to Rab Shimon. So what do you see over here? That Rebbe holds that there's no muktzah b'chlal. So how could Rebbe be speaking about Beitza and mitbariyos, which is negay over here to this halacha, but negay to muktzah? That because it's mitbariyos, it's muktzah, and therefore you can't shecht it. Rebbe doesn't hold the muktzah. So the Gemara gives two answers. Over here, these mitbariyos that stay out of the tchum and they never come back, it's like groigeris v'tzimukin, that a person is doiche b'yadayim, that even Rab Shimon is made that it's muktzeh. Over here, because this never comes back, it's similar. It's also something that the person does not have in mind at all. It's completely out of his mind, and therefore it's considered to be a muktzeh. That's one answer. Or there's actually three answers here. So let's see. The second answer is L'dvarav de Rab Shimon Ka'amar. That Rebbe was saying his opinion according to Rab Shimon, but he doesn't hold this way. When Rebbe gave the psak din before, so Rebbe gave the psak din according to Rab Shimon, but he doesn't necessarily hold like Rab Shimon. He holds that there is muktzeh. Or you could say l'divrayim de Rabbanon kamaluhu. Rebbe was saying according to the Rabbanon. Lididi, according to me, ein muktzeh. According to me, there's no issue of muktzeh, and therefore, whether it's baisais, whether it's mitbariyais, you could shech the animals, there's no muktzeh. But elo lididchu, but Rebbe was saying according to the Rabbanon, according to you, oiduli miyas, you should at least be minded to me that heiche de yitzis, v'royes bePesach, v'nechnases berevir srishayna, that those animals that leave in the spring by Pesach time and they come back in Cheshvan time in the first rain, the Beitza is saying, you should be minded to me because they come back in the winter, that this is considered to be Beitza. It's because they come back then. So that he was saying according to the Rabbanon's opinion, that according to you, you should be minded to me that because it comes back into the winter, it's still considered to be Beitza. And the Rabbanon said, Loi, no, midbari is saying, those animals that don't come back only for the winter, that's called midbariyas. They're considered to be wild animals, and therefore they are considered to be muktzeh. Hadran, Allah, Mashilim, Peiris, Veslike, Mesechte Beye. So the Hadran, that ever made the Hadran on Mesechte Beye, one time it was Chaf Av Tavshin Tezvav, another time was Chai El Tavshin Chav Beis, and the one from Chai El Tavshin Chav Beis is actually a recording from it. So in the Verbringen of Chaf Av Tavshin Tezvav, the Rebbe said, Amoyre de Gevart, in the pshat of this machlokes here between Rebbe and the Rabbanon. The Rebbe said, he's speaking over here about the behemoths. And there's two kinds of behemoths, the ones that are more closer to the Yishuv, Baisais, and the ones that are Midbariyas, they're out in the wild. So the Rebbe said this goes in the Nefesh Bahamas of a Yid. There's two kinds of Nefesh Bahamas of a Yid. There's Nefesh Bahamas of a Yid that still comes to the Yishuv B'nai Adam. It's not it comes inside, and even if it goes far away, it goes off away from the path, but when it comes dark at night, it comes a desperate situation, he comes back. Or at least in the winter, he comes back. But then you have a Nefesh Bahamas that goes out, and he stays out and he doesn't come back b'chlal. So over here you see the difference between the way the Rabbanan look at it and the way Rebbe looks at it. The way that Rabbanan look at it is that Rabbanan say that a behemah that comes back only in the winter, that's already considered to be far out. You can't, he's already too far. It's not, you can't be Makar of him. How are you going to be Makar of this person? He only comes back so only in the winter. The entire summer he doesn't come back Bachlal. To come and to shecht him and to be mailim, you can't. This is a Nefesh Bahamas that's very, very far away. Someone that comes back every night, someone that comes back more often, so then that's considered to be someone that you can shecht and you can be Makar of him. That's the opinion of the Rabbanan. And the Rabbanan are speaking according to the Roiv. According to the Roiv, so that's taka the way it is. But what does Rabbi say? Rabbi says, Eilu ve'elu baisasein. That if it even comes back only in the winter, it's close enough, as we can schleppen, you can schlepp him in, you can shecht him, you can be mekar of him. And not only that, according to one of the terutzim that the Gemara says in the end, the last teretz, the Siyum of the Masechta, Rabbi Bemis holds that when it comes to shechting this animal, you could shecht even the midbariyos. There's no muktzah, you could shecht the baisais, you could shecht even the midbariyos. They can ala maila zayin. Why? Because Rabbi is not looking at the basarayv. Rabbi is the nasi adayr, and he looks at all Yidden, and the Rebbe sees the kayach that there is in the Yid, that even if his nefesh abamis is so far, that l'chayre he never comes back. He's out in the forest and ganz narog gefahren. Nevertheless, Rabbi is saying, afile kemen mekarav zayin, kemen brengen, kemen shechten and maila zayin. Also the hadron from the Masechta. Okay, so you have over here the hadron, talking the hadron aloch.